All right. So, did you want to, Joel? Do you want to go through the different parts of the dashboard and then kind of let me know how they're tracking and if you've got any questions around it or anything like that, or have a convo. Um, your your attendance is looking pretty good, I think, from what you've
Yep, so
been
attendance
saying.
is good. We're well happy there, and our successful contacts, first week contacts, are happy with the amount of new people's data we're getting, and we're happy with the amount of them that we're connecting every week. We're at 100%, so the team's doing a pretty good job there.
Brilliant.
Connect groups, we've done a lot of work there, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be. Yep.
Awesome. So can I just ask you on the new people, 100%, that's pretty amazing in terms of the contact rate. Is that I mean, if it's, sometimes we have services as well where it's like, they actually entered one person into a database and that person got a contact, so that's 100%.
Yeah.
And they're really pumped, and I always say, well, probably have more than one person in there. But if you have kind of more than that, how do you guys make sure that you actually, at the end of the week, that everybody's contacted? Because we do have a team that's calling people sometimes even twice or three times to make sure that everyone we are getting a hold of. But how do you actually make that reality that every single new person is also being followed up in the first week?
A lot of it, we're trying to get it all within the first 3 days, and ideally within the first 24 to 48 hours if we can. And so we have a lot of work goes in the beginning part of the week. So if we're missing anybody, we've got a lot more chance to still get them within that first week time frame, because most of the concentrated work's at the start. And so the team's using multiple mediums, so from calling to texting to emailing, but all of those mediums are to still try and get a phone call. So if we're texting people, we're asking for a time to contact them, and luckily some people on the follow-up team are flexible enough to make those times work.
Great, excellent. Any success with even contacting people through social media as a first sort of contact for follow-up?
I'm not sure if they use that medium a lot. I know we've used it in the past, but we definitely find text message probably the most effective and most responsive, most likely to get a response back almost immediately, even if they just haven't picked up their phone when you called. And we find anyway in our context that, like particularly along young adults, they actually don't answer their phone anyway. So they're much more likely to reply to a text message, and then when they know who's calling, to answer the phone.
So interesting, because we've got quite a few young adults and sort of the older teenagers and the youth who a lot of times will only reply to Facebook. So that is their most comfortable way of communicating. So if you contact them through Facebook, you get replies. If you try to contact them any other way, it's almost impossible. So it's quite interesting how that sort of shifts. So we are in the process of, adjusting that and seeing how we can do that, do that well. Because ultimately that's the language or the medium that they use to communicate. We've gotta learn that and talk down the channel pretty much. So it's pretty interesting.
That's right.
That's great. So you were saying.
Like that's the same for the new people's network. For the youth group, they use that as the main medium of follow up is all about Facebook.
Great. Now, Connect Group, you were saying you had you had you got some work to do. What does that look like? Do you have like kind of? Can you talk a little bit about what the goals are in terms of starting new connect groups in order to see kind of the 10% being hit?
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of work. We started the year with just 6 connect groups. Just 6 connect groups. We've just launched 15 in the last 2 months, and so, but that still doesn't get us anywhere close to where we need to be. And part of it has been getting more staff hours allocated to seeing group leaders invited into leading groups, doing a lot of work about, just raising the profile of groups and the culture of the church, and really talking about that from our team nights, right through to our Sundays, about why that's a value for us. Looking at our core team and seeing who is and isn't in there, and encouraging them to model that culture, and really trying to build a culture in the groups where they are building leaders, so that long term we've got a solution where we constantly have a pipeline of small group leaders. A lot of it is we're opening up a lot more of what it looks like to lead a group, which is giving us a lot more options. So we're saying, like, groups need to be a place where people belong and where people are developing in their relationship with God. But for people to be developing in their relationship with God doesn't mean they have to have the Bible open, or doesn't mean they have to have times of prayer. It can just be, as long as the leader of that group is building a culture where conversations are taking place, that people are feeling like they're growing in their faith because of it. And I think that's giving us a lot more ability to have more groups that are still achieving what we need them to achieve, even though what they do to achieve that looks quite different.
Yeah. What would you say kind of, I guess, the strategic role of connect groups is in church?
For us, we see that everything that needs to happen in a person's journey needs to happen in the context of belonging. That our spiritual formation is supposed to happen in the context of community or fellowship, or whatever it is you call it, family. So we see connect groups as like so key to seeing people, really reach their full potential in Jesus and be all that they're meant to be, that we're all designed to develop in the context of community. And home groups is sort of the main thrust of the context of community. And so really without it, we feel like everybody's only going as well as the next event, whereas with home groups, we're way less reliant on another big thing happening every month to keep people going.
Yeah, excellent. And do you think that the format of those connect groups is really important? So you were saying earlier that you're kind of opening it up a little bit in terms of in terms of what it means to lead a connect group. Is there like a set format that you have that really works in order to see those goals achieved?
We think the set format all hinges on the way that we're training and developing the leaders, and we're not necessarily doing a great job at that, but we see that as the key. If we've got the leaders with the right heart and with the right tools and the right approach, and they know what they're trying to achieve by leading a group, then how they choose to achieve it is way more up for grabs, as long as we've got that sort of core stuff right. Every leader's got different styles, everyone's got different skills, and some people that are great at opening the Bible, some are great at just pastoral conversation, and so we'd rather empower them to do what fits best for them, as long as people are growing and people are connected.
Great. Yeah, it's interesting. We've just actually, had a lot of conversations around connect groups, and really kind of worked out that for a lot of people, it became quite social. So it became a hangout, on a weeknight, where I guess the spiritual aspect, the study, doing like a Bible study together, that almost became like an optional thing where there was more focus put on the eating together and connecting together. And sometimes I guess groups are in that spot where that really works and where that connection is really important. But across the board, we've actually found that what people are really wanting to get out, the majority of them, is to do that, to be able to talk about scripture, to be able to do a study, to really sharpen each other. And so what we decided actually is to start this thing called 1 Hour Connects, and Julia just recently just put that out there, and as a theme. And the idea is that Connect group goes for an hour. That we're not gonna necessarily focus too much on everyone bringing food and eating together every time, because a lot of time, that's pretty much all we did. Even in my Connect group, we just ate for the whole night basically, and we're talking. But in terms of what people also really wanted to get out of it, the discipleship part of it, that was kind of not too strong, and so we just tweaked it a little. And not every Connect group has started that yet, or has even heard about that yet. But we just put it out there as a concept. And the groups that already started that, number one, everybody was super excited about the idea of that. So we're pretty much saying there's a set start time and a set finish time, and before and after you can still hang out and connect. There is just 1 hour for connection, discipleship, for the word, for prayer. And so we started that in our Connect group, and it was actually awesome. It was the best one that we've had for like a couple of years. People were really into it, and I think we can do those, and then every once in a while we're just going to do just like a big feast. So we're not going to do a study at all, but we're going to say, well, tonight we're just going to have dinner, and then we're going to go all out, So that's kind of been interesting, like an interesting sort of shift for us. But yeah, I think the strategic role of Connect groups in church, it just can't be underestimated, and I love how you guys are emphasizing that as well. It's really, I guess it's really vital for church life. So leadership structure wise, Joel, you were saying obviously you're working on raising up new leaders. You want to create a pipeline of leaders where there's always somebody new ready to start a group. What does the leadership structure kind of look like? Have you got them? Are you going through like an input output Connect group tree type of thing, where it starts with you guys and then kind of sort of filters down, or you have it structured through services and service pastors? What does that sort of look like?
Yeah, so we have a staff member that is in charge of that area of church. Then we have, or as one of the things that they're in charge of overseeing, then we have an intern that is directly devotes their time to that at this stage. And then I think the structure is more sort of about having coaches and leaders. But the coaches are also small group leaders, and so that there's about one coach to every 5 leaders, and their job's to just sort of make sure that they're checking in and the leaders are doing well and they're healthy and they've got everything that they need, and any issues coming up in the groups are being helped along and people are doing well. And then we have our small group leaders, and then the people that those leaders have identified as people they want to train as leaders within their groups. So I don't know if that answers the question, but we just sort of look at it as a whole church, just one ministry or an associated to each gathering, because many of our groups have people from multiple services at a group.
Yeah. What do you think in terms of those coaches? How do you identify them? Because one of the things, I guess, that's really really important. You started with 6 Connect groups. Now you've well and truly, I guess, multiplied. what do you look for in those coaches that are not just they're running their own Connect group as well? Is that right? And what do you look for in them in order to be able to lead other Connect group leaders as well?
Yeah. So we're looking for, I guess, the type of people that could be leaders of leaders, which we all know is a little bit different from just being a leader. Is somebody that we're looking for people that really are really interested in building people, not just running home group. And so we're looking for people that really get what we're doing, have a real heart for it, but have a heart. They're more pastoral, sort of hearted people. Come alongside, check up on people. They seem to be a little bit more senior, a little bit more seasoned in doing things, better at dealing with issues. But not all of them, but for the majority, that seems to be more the profile. More like mums and dads as opposed to, kids.
That's awesome. I like the analogy. Like it a lot. That's great. So you've got those guys. Then, obviously, part of their role then is to raise up new Connect group leaders. Or small group. Do you call them Connect groups? Small groups?
Small group. I think everybody calls them by a different name. We call them small groups.
So, how do you guys determine who's ready? I mean, I think you mentioned not everyone's ready, but what is ready? Like, what are the things you look at for someone to initially start their Connect group? When is someone ready?
With part of it, we're still sort of developing and fine-tuning that process. But the things we've identified is, we've got a few commitments we ask leaders to make. But we normally would ask them to make those commitments before we even identify them as a potential leader, so that they'd know well in advance what they're being developed into. We would want them to have already been a part of our, all the home group leaders get together every 2 months. Have them have already been to one or two of those as they were being developed, and we've got a sort of a 6-month leadership development process. They don't have to have been a part of the full 6 months, but there's a sort of a phase 1 and phase 2, and so the phase 1 would definitely be something we want to be a part of, which is some basic leadership training things, modules that we sort of take people through.
Great. What does that look like? That phase 1? Do you do a training sort of midweek on the weekend? What is it?
Yes, there are 4 afternoons before our evening gathering. Just an hour and a half, so 2 45-minute sessions, and one sort of an induction to church leadership and our sort of culture of leadership and the heart of what we do, just going over stuff they probably already know by that stage, but just, going over it again and again about our vision and our values and our framework and our sort of modus operandi sort of stuff. And then the other topics we sort of cover are from basics of leading a team or leading a group, running meetings, conflict resolution, having a healthy spirituality. I think there's about another 6 topics, and a few different people run different modules for those things within the community.
Great. How important would you, in that training, I'm thinking of, one of the important things in church life, of course, to keep church running and sustainable. Giving is really important, not just for that practical reason, but also because of the importance of it, scripturally, I guess. What do you look for? I mean, I assume you probably, like we do, don't check on people's giving. We're of course wouldn't do that. It's not who we are. It's not our culture. But I guess how do you train a key leader? Even in a key area like that, is that just part of your training? Is that part of the leadership conversation?
Yeah, so it used to be something we more asked them, are they willing to commit to this? But now, before we even start sort of identifying them as a leader or developing them as a leader, somebody would sit down with them and go through those things. So rather than just trying to get them to make a commitment, we'd want to see, are they already committed to these things? And so we'll do it conversationally. So like, hey, tell us about your rhythms of giving with the church. Tell us about what it looks like for you to be in community in church, and like sort of like tell us what your service looks like in the church, and sort of try, are they ticking those sort of main box that we want to see leaders modeling before we're asking them people to be like them. Yeah, so we're trying to do most of the commitment stuff more in the context of, are you already living this life? Because if you're not already living it, we don't want you to just make the commitment so you can be a leader.
Yeah.
We want it to be a natural part of your journey.
Yeah. Excellent. So you mentioned a word, it's the rhythms of giving. I mean, it's not really in the context of connect groups, I guess, where we're kind of sitting, but what's the rhythms of giving?
Well, just what does it look like for somebody? What does their giving look like in the church? And yeah, everybody's got slightly different philosophies and slightly different, pay cycles and different ways that they see things. And so it's more of just a question to go, not are you a tither or not, what percentage do you give, but more to find out, where they're at in their philosophy around those things. Because that's just a good learning opportunity to see if we're doing a good job at discipling people around money as well. But we're not looking for people to be, tithers, 10%, weekly givers or whatever. We're just looking for people that are generous, regularly to the church, and and that looks different for lots of different people. So.
Yeah, it's funny, in terms of developing leaders, raising up new leaders, what you look for in someone like that can vary big time amongst different churches, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some extreme examples of churches where, leaders are expected to fully grasp the theology, of the church. Every aspect of doctrine, where there's really strong emphasis on that. So obviously there's a strong emphasis on, the study and the teaching in those connect groups. I guess for us it would be more like, we would say everybody has got the potential to be a leader, and, being a small group leader is part of you bringing that, developing that potential. And so, we would very soon actually encourage every existing Connect Group leader to start raising up others, to start getting them involved in helping the lead Connect Group, because really it's just a matter of time until everyone in your group will be able to start their own group. So
that's right.
I guess more fluid, than the extreme example that I just gave, and that's cool. But we'll be praying for you, mate, praying for the emergence of new leaders, new Connect Group leaders, that God's going to give you wisdom in that, and that we're going to see multiplication. Man, how many groups do you mind talking about? How many groups do you got at the moment?
Yeah, so we've got 21 groups live at the moment, and obviously we've got other leaders that we're getting ready to launch more groups over the next month or two. Well, that's sort of happening every month. But if we looked at our dashboard, that's the key area. Like, we need 48 new groups right now, and so that's quite daunting for the person that's in charge of that. But we just one bit at a time, and hopefully, we'll get there eventually, and we're learning plenty on the way.
Brilliant. I love it. One bit at a time, one leader at a time. And in terms of next steps, obviously, you've got one person in charge of that, one person on your staff. How do you see the value in having a staff member focus on something like Connect Groups?
Yeah, well, it's priceless. For something so core to the church, we can't really say it's core if we're not actually putting any resource behind it. Otherwise, it's just sort of lip service, and especially when we're in such a deficit as far as how far behind we are in this area, there's no way would be able to push that over just having some high capacity volunteer leaders. Like it needs, a lot of hours. It needs, and because it's such a key area as far as its ability to go bad if we don't get small group culture right, we're going to have a lack of unity in the church. And so we want somebody leading that who is in every conversation and, really has the heart. So if it gets diluted a little bit down the process, it's not that diluted by the time it gets to the end.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, mate. I think that's all we've got time for today. Got a couple of meetings I'm about to step into.
Awesome.
But I'm just gonna stop the broadcast here. If anyone else is watching, any of our other New Zealand network members, great to see you online. Hopefully you can join us next time for this hangout. It's really simple. And make sure you email me or naomi.hopper@hillsong.com if you want to get set up for the dashboard as well. So it'd be good to have you with us online next time. Joel, one last thing. Your album has recently been released. Have you got a copy that you can show us? Because it is awesome.
I don't have a copy in my office, I don't think, sadly, so that's not very good, but yeah.
It is awesome.
You can find it on iTunes.
Top the charts in front of, what was that, Kanye West and Hillsong United, right?
Yeah, so we're taking them down. They might have overtaken us again now, but we had our few weeks in the limelight, so we're happy.
Awesome. Brilliant. All right.
Cool.
Be blessed. See you all online.